And we are live streaming, so let's keep the cursing to a minimum. And I will start the webinar, and we will start to see our guests, and we are recording.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Cynthia.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
We're late arriving today. Zach may be a couple of minutes. He's getting off of work at 6, and he will be joining us from his car.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi, Joan. So folks, we're just waiting for our chairperson to join us. He should be here in a couple of moments.
My pal.
I figured you'd want to see him, Joan. And since he's decided to join us today, I put him on camera.
Yes. Awesome.
Try it again.
Awesome. Turn around. I want to see your pretty face. Awesome. Turn around. I want to see your pretty face.
Yeah, he doesn't want to listen to meetings. He's not getting paid for this. He's just another board member right now.
Well, he's a mascot and an honorary board member.
That's right. He's keeping up his perfect attendance.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Hello. Oh, I think I'm going to be on here twice.
Hi, Pat.
That helps. Hi, everybody. Hello. What's going on here? Okay.
I see Daniel Wagner. You have a cutie too.
Yeah, he was in the way. I had to
displace them.
Let me
They
know if
can all
I'm
join.
on
Put a
twice.
smile on my face.
They all think they're stars. I'm getting feedback. Is somebody on twice? Pat, I believe you're on twice. Could you mute one of them?
Oh, I can hear now, finally. Finally, I had a lot of trouble, I'm sorry.
Okay, I don't think I'm getting that feedback now.
Okay. Glad to hear it.
All right,
I've been trying to get on for about 10 minutes now.
we've seen your name. It just looked like your camera wasn't working.
Right.
Folks, we're still waiting for our chairperson. He should join us any moment.
How is everybody?
Good, Beverly. How you doing?
All right, you know, the ups and downs. Everybody else is, oh, Pat is muted. All right, I'm just gonna get a bottle of water. I'll be right back.
Folks, for the moment, before we start the meeting, if you have questions, please use the Q&A function. You'll see it at the bottom of the screen.
Jeremy, do you still see me 2 times?
Yes, only once on camera. The other's just your name.
Hi, guys, it's Zach. Sorry I'm late. I just got out of work. Can you hear me?
I kept well informed, Zach.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Appreciate it. So
When you're ready, you may want to.
I'm ready.
Okay, should I
Yep.
start with attendance?
Yes, please start with attendance and then introduce our presenters, and thanks very much.
No problem. So folks, I'm going to mute everybody. And then I'm going to call attendance for the Transportation Committee. I'm only going to call the committee members, and I will write down the names of the other board members during the meeting. When I call your name, please unmute yourself, acknowledge me, and or acknowledge your name, and then mute yourself again. So let's start with Zach Jassy.
Here.
Thank you. John Garcia. Joan Body.
Here.
Thank you. Joseph Canali. John DeLuper.
Present.
Thank you. David Estrada. Roberto A. Martinez. Marilyn Melman. Gloria Rodriguez Navoa. Cindy Vandenbosch.
Here.
Thank you. Katie Walsh. And I will write down the other board members' names as the meeting is going on. Zach, I believe, asked me to introduce our presenters tonight. I know, I think we might be expecting a couple of others. I see we have Emily and Daniel from DOT. I'm not sure who is presenting.
We also have David here, and he will be presenting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, David, I'm sorry, you're in the corner. I have something over your face, I'm sorry. So David, are you also controlling the deck?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so let me make you the co-host, so you can share your screen. And
Yes.
then, folks, tonight's meeting is on Park Circle. And I would just let David run the beginning of the meeting, and we'll do like we usually do.
All right.
Thank
All right, so I'm David Shum. I'm a traffic engineer for the pedestrian unit at New York City DOT. We're proposing improvements to Park Circle, which I want to go through with you all today. And I'll gladly take any questions that you may have at the end of the presentation. So before I discuss what we're proposing, I want to provide some background information about this location. Park Circle, it's right next to Prospect Park, and it also is adjacent to Community Board 14 and Community Board 7. It's a location we've paid very close attention to throughout the years. In 2019, concrete pedestrian islands, painted curb extensions, and bike lanes were installed throughout the circle. In 2017, the Prospect Park entrance was closed to public vehicles. In 2018, those entrances were converted to shared spaces. In 2019, the signal timing throughout the whole neighborhood was optimized to improve traffic flow. And upcoming this year, protected bike lanes are to be installed along Fort Hamilton Parkway and Parkside Avenue. So what this project aims to address is an FDMI concern to improve their mobility of their emergency vehicles, the fire trucks, et cetera, throughout the circle. We're proposing to do this by improving the traffic flow of Park Circle in general and implementing some solutions to reduce the chances of vehicle collisions you may often see here. It is a high vehicle crash location, mainly due to rear ends, fender benders, side swipes. And luckily there have been no fatalities, but there have been a few severe injuries. And I want to go through the existing conditions of the circle just to explain the underlying issues of it right now. The first thing that we see here as a concern is that there's a lack of clarity regarding which lanes lead to which exit. There's often driver confusion of what leads to where. And one of those reasons is that there's no arrow markings on the ground to guide drivers. You can see in the photo that this is north of the circle looking towards the Fort Hamilton and Ocean Parkway exit. Most of these cars, they're driving this path that I marked as the red arrow. But and this seems like the correct path from ground level, but the correct path is actually labeled as the green arrow. And you can't really see this reason why this is until you look at the aerial from the top, and you see that the green arrows are the rightmost lane, which is the lane you should be using to turn right or exit. And the red arrow path, which the vehicles are using, only lead around the circle. Secondly, the vehicles are required to merge into the outside lanes in order to exit. And the more lanes, the more merges that occur, the higher the chances of a side swipe or a fender bender there are. You can see in this drawing that the green paths lead outwards, and the red paths, which are the inner lanes, only go around and around. And that means that if you're on any of these red lanes, you have to merge in order to exit into these green arrows. And what this means is that nobody really wants to be in the red lanes because they don't lead anywhere. You can see this in the circle. In the photo here. This pickup truck, he's all the way on the inside lane. He realizes he has to exit, and now he has to merge across a bunch of lanes. And this leads into our third issue, that these vehicles, like the pickup truck, are making multi-lane merges from these underused inner lanes. These inner lanes, most of the time they're empty, even in heavy traffic. And this creates a situation where a vehicle in the inner lane, like again, cuts across into the exit. And this is where most crashes occur. We've actually studied this behavior and calculated the ratio of cars that do this motion. And 12% of exiting vehicles on the north side of the circle follow this path and merge across 3 lanes. And similarly, on the south side of the circle, 16% of exiting vehicles come from this inner lane and merge out. And that's also across 3 lanes. And in this photo, you can see that this car is the only one in that inner lane, and he's also merging outwards. Next, I want to show you the traffic pattern that is typically seen here at busy times. It's a simplified version, of course, but let's see. So like most of the time, cars are almost never in their proper lanes as they queue to exit, as I previously explained. They're on top of other lanes. They do these sudden lane merges from the inner lane, and as this occurs and backs up, it blocks other cars that want to continue through the circle, like the one in yellow, from continuing. And all these reasons lead to like just a knot of the congestion that we often see here. So now I want to show you what we're proposing to address this. So this project will be constructed by our in-house program by DOT staff. It consists of the following options in our in-house toolkit, which are exclusive turn lanes, quick curbs, which are vertical plastic barriers, destination signs, and arrow markings. All right, so this is our proposal. I want to show you and explain each aspect of it. Our major change is to reconfigure the lanes so that all the lanes lead to an eventual exit. None of the inner lanes no longer continuously go around and around. And this reduces lane changes, which is a major cause of the crashes here again. And this can create shorter queue lengths by better divvying up the traffic between the lanes. We're also proposing to increase markings and signage to guide these vehicles to the correct lane and exit. We can inform vehicles where to be much more in advance by doing this. And then again, we can balance the cars in each lane so that it prevents vehicles from vehicles that want to go one direction from blocking a vehicle that wants to go another direction. And lastly, we're adding quick curbs, the plastic vertical barriers and plastic delineators near major exits to prevent vehicles from performing those multi-lane merges that I was explaining a while ago. They're highlighted in red here. And this enforces vehicles to correctly queue. Nobody can cheat the line, so to say. And it reduces merges, that prevents crashes, and just improves traffic flow by everyone just being more in sync of what they're doing. Next, I want to show you how cars would queue in this new design compared to how it is now. So note that the number of cars in each diagram are exactly the same. I previously showed you how cars here are currently queuing and how the yellow car here is being blocked. by the cars waiting to exit. So in the proposal with our new configuration, we see that the cars wanting to exit are no longer being stuck. The cars that are queuing, they're being enforced by the quick curb and the plastic delineators to line up properly. And it's just more in sync. Everyone knows where everyone's headed to. And lastly, I want to analyze a major existing route that's taken throughout the circle and see how it compares to the new design. So a huge portion of cars throughout the day drive into the circle at Coney Island Avenue and exit towards Fort Hamilton Parkway. In the existing, if we follow the red path, so as we enter the circle, we see that our exit's not for a while, so we head towards the inner lane, and as we go and around the circle, we're waiting for an indication that we're about to exit, but we only really see it when we're here, and we realize we have to merge across 3 lanes, and which is really far from ideal. And in the proposal, we're headed towards the same location. And if we follow the blue route, we go into the inner lane again. And as we continue, it splits. The left lane only continues throughout the circle as indicated with the arrow markings. And the middle lane has a through and left arrow, which indicates that it's exiting and also continuing throughout the circle. So we choose the middle one because we want to exit, and it leads directly towards our exit. So if you notice, the proposal, it had 0 merges involved. So it's essentially we've improved from merging 3 lanes to 0. And we can see improvements like that throughout all different movements, but this is just one example. And that concludes our proposal, but I want to quickly summarize our changes. So we're shifting lanes throughout the circle towards exits. We're installing buffers between the lanes around the circle and lanes exiting towards Parkside Ave and Ocean Parkway. And we're installing signage and markings to guide vehicles. And the benefits are that it's a simpler, safer vehicular movements. There's reduced weaving for vehicles exiting the circles, and there's overall improved vehicular operation. And I'll take questions right now. Thank you.
Okay, so folks, please use the raise hand function. We're going to call on board members first for the first round, and then we will call on attendees. So I see Joan Body's hand up first. Joan? Joan, you're muted.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Could you go through what you're proposing when you are getting off of Ocean Parkway, coming on to the circle to go to Prospect Park Southwest?
So you're talking about this motion, right?
Yeah, when you're driving along, coming from Coney Island on Ocean Parkway, you have to go to that little mini portion of the Prospect Expressway.
Are you talking about?
So that's another difficulty. Have you? I didn't see anything in this proposal from that exit onto going to Prospect Park Southwest or Hamilton Avenue, or that has to be looked at also.
Yes, yeah, and the one I explained was just one example, but I can explain another one. Were you talking about this exit, main entrance towards Prospect Park Southwest?
Yes,
South, yes. So like currently you have to stop at the stop sign. There's usually a group of cars over here that you have to drive around and then merge back in, right?
exactly.
Yep.
And there's a bottleneck and people get confused.
Mhm.
Because, so what is your proposal for that?
Yeah, so yes, it's still a stop sign, but you only have to go to the middle lane where the cars that was grouping around here and you had to drive around, they're all pushed towards the right now. They're more organized over here. And
Yeah,
and maybe I could draw it.
so you're not going to do any improvements for that area?
So I just drew a line right here, right? You can see that as long as you get into the middle lane.
Yeah, because you have to cross over, and if you don't cross over, then you have to go into, and that has to be looked at.
Yeah. So
Seriously, guys.
yeah, so let's see. So imagine if there were cars right here, right?
You know, many, many moons ago, one of your commissioners, Jeremy, refresh my memory.
You got it right. It's Keegan.
Keegan, she said, nobody knows the neighborhoods like the people that live there. And nobody knows the neighborhood when we're driving, the people that are in the cars driving on the streets. And this area that you have now marked in red is another dangerous area. You have to be very, 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 very cautious and very slow and be very vigilant of because this section of Parkside Avenue comes up very, very quickly. And as we all know, the traffic around the circle is horrendous at times.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you.
So that's where I am. And if you want my approval, you're going to have to come back to me with some improvement for that area.
Well,
By the way, I thank you for bringing this to our attention and really concentrating on it because it really needs it. Thanks again.
Thank you, John. I have John Johnston next.
Second, Jones concerned about that area. I just experienced it.
John, I'm having difficulty with your audio. David, are you having difficulty as well?
Do you hear me now?
A little better.
I second.
Not very well.
I second Jones' concern regarding that area. I just experienced it just literally 10 minutes ago. No one understands the yield sign. They inch up into a block, basically gridlock Coney Island Avenue. And every time I come around, like dropping my kids off from school, like home from school, I can get down the hill with no problem. I hit that area with the yield sign and it takes me 15 to 20 minutes just to cross that area with the yield sign and Coney Island Avenue. No one knows what to do with the yield sign. And they just inch and inch and inch and inch and inch out. And no one understands what to do there. I mean, I don't know. I would love, they need a traffic light there, actually, to stop people, to encourage people to stop so they have secrecy in between. That area is really, really bad, and it causes lots of the traffic jam going out. It got worse when they closed the park to cars, which is fine. And I can't cross there safely. And also when I cross my kids along that circle, I mean, especially on the side where everyone goes to Ocean Parkway, there's not enough single time to cross. a lot of times I'm stuck in between, even when I start at the right time and things. But that Joan is correct. That yield sign in that area needs to be looked at really, really closely, because no one in New York City understands what to do with that yield sign and how to get out into that circle. And unless we do that, all the work you guys are doing on this circle over the years will be for loss, because no one understands that intersection. I go every day and I have problems with that intersection. That's all.
Yeah, so we are giving it an improvement by, so all these proposal solutions that we've suggested, they're, when they add up together, they will improve the traffic flow. And each issue, it kind of compounds on itself because it is a circle. If one part of the circle is jammed up, then the rest of the circle gets jammed up. It's like turning gears. So we had to address all those tiny things to hopefully improve this. And just to address what you are particularly concerned about, like I showed you here, if the cars were queued up as in the proposal, there's a much clearer path to get across as compared to the existing here, where you have to drive around this unorganized group of cars somehow. And that's what's causing this may be the first car that gets jammed up, but the cars behind it also get jammed up, and so on and so on. So if we prevent that first car from being jammed up in the first place, it kind of unties the knot.
David, I think what John was conveying is the fact that it's a yield sign there allows cars to continue to come into the circle, even though there's a red light along Coney Island Avenue, and then they are gridlocking the folks trying to get off of Coney Island Avenue, who then gridlock them. The fact that it's a yield sign allows more traffic out into the circle when it can't handle it. John, did I have your point correct?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, and we're going to
Still having problems with your audio. That's why I picked it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and again, we're trying to address FDNY concern here, trying to increase their mobility of their emergency vehicles here. We've studied this location for many decades now, and we're slowly adding improvements to it constantly. And yeah, we think that this proposal will give FDNY that access. But
it doesn't. Yes. I'm gonna jump in. Excuse me, David. I'm gonna jump in. The proposal doesn't prevent that yield from being a stop. I think the conditions of the circle probably prevent it from being signalized. I don't know how you could signalize two locations so close to each other, one being Coney Island Avenue and the other being the yield in question. But nonetheless, when the project goes in, we're still going to be here. We're still going to be watching. We're still going to be observing and trying to figure out. This is step, 13 of 49 of fixing this location. I made those numbers up, but the point is that we're just in the middle of trying it. This is just another improvement. We're not going away. The circle's not going away, and we can try and work out that yield sign next, but it's not really a part of this project.
Thank you. I have John DeLuper next.
All right, thank you. First, I'm really glad to see you guys continuing to try to do safety improvements and making the traffic situation better. Always glad to hear. I did want to follow up on one of the points you made about how your initial concern was fire response. Now, I wanted to ask because I know that the circle at, I think it's Bartell Pritchard, the other circle entrance, has a bike lane, and I know the city has been talking about using bike lanes as emergency lanes for fire and ambulances, especially since here it looks like maybe some of the almost excess lanes in the middle cause some of the traffic confusion. Was there any discussion of adding a bike lane to facilitate that and maybe using those same quick curbs to ensure that it's protected from traffic so emergency vehicles can use it if necessary?
So are you referring to the current existing bike lanes, or are you referring
I
to?
might be confusing the circles, but I think this lane doesn't really have much of one, right? And there's another circle on another part of the park that does.
Well, there's a bike lane that wraps around the
Okay.
same. Mhm. And
And
it,
FDNY is permitted to drive across the beige coloring or the bike lane coloring on this circle as well.
Okay. Is there any, was there any thought of expanding the bike area so they can do it more easily, or I just worry that, traffic circles, as many of the other panelists have said, can get kind of congested and they can slow down that response. So if they have a clear path, cyclists can get out of the way easier than stopped cars, if that makes sense.
yes, they do have access here. It is protected by plastic delineators, but those are, if you ever seen them, they can be easily driven over by an emergency vehicle and they flop right back up.
We're very well aware of how easily they get knocked down. I'm sorry, John, was that the end of your comments?
Yeah, that was the only thing. I just wanted to suggest that because, yeah, if it's an issue of access, and I know that the city has been talking about, so you said they're permitted, but I know that in other areas they've been almost encouraging that, just because when cars are stuck in traffic, there's nowhere they can go. You always talk about moving your car to the side, but if it's stuck, not really much you can do. But I understand that I guess in this case, the fire department feels that they can get through more easily in the traffic lanes. I guess that's between them and you guys. So
Yeah, we have been talking to the FDNY about this project. Again, they were the original requester, and we have obviously met with them. What we've said is that we believe that this proposal will uncork some of their bigger congestion points, and then they should be able to maneuver once that happens. And if it doesn't work, we will keep working on it.
Thank you, John. Cindy Vandenbosch is next.
Hi. I walk, bike, and drive at this intersection all the time. And I really appreciate you continuing to sort of work on this intersection because there are a lot of issues, as we all know. Question about signage. So I do, and I it's, will there be improved signage so that you're not, I feel like when you're driving right now, you do get surprised by where you're supposed to be orienting the vehicle. So will you be informed earlier in the process as a driver how you're supposed to like navigate the circle? How will you know you're going to paint on the pavement, but will there also be signage sort of like you see at Grand Army Plaza? And could you speak to just wayfinding in general?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. The signage right now, you really only see it as you're about to exit, as you see the exit. So we're planning to add more signage much more in advance. The placement is still varied, but maybe some here in advance so that you can see where to be before exiting. There'll be signs at each entrance so that you see where to be before going in. And yeah, and along with the arrow markings, it should provide a lot of guidance for these drivers.
Thank you, Cindy. I have Beverly Kleinman next.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. This is a very congested area. And there are times of the day that if I'm coming from Coney Island Avenue and I want to get off at Prospect Park Southwest, it could take me half an hour. And I'm just wondering if there's any possibility that a lane could be added to allow for more traffic and more flexibility in changing lanes. Because if I'm coming up Coney Island Avenue, I get caught behind a lot of vehicles that are trying to exit a Parkside. Then I have to continue around the circle, and it's all backed up, and there are people in the right-hand lane if I want to get off at Prospect Park Southwest. Maybe if there was another lane, there'd be room for, it's a growing population. Has that been given any consideration?
We've looked at, hi Beverly, so
Hi.
we've looked at the space in general, like what it would look like without any markings and just trying to make it anew. So the addition of a lane, as we saw in the existing condition, we can have a lot of lanes and nobody using them. Like the inner lanes before, let me try to get back to what I was trying to show you. The inner 2 lanes before, they don't lead anywhere. So if we were to add a lane, it should have a purpose of where it leads to. We don't want to add one of these redundant lanes that people are going to use to cut in front of other people. And we also don't want to reduce space for pedestrians or bikes here.
That's true.
Thank you, Beverly.
Okay.
Folks, I have one more hand up for a panelist, and that's the chairperson, so I will call on him in a second. Members of the public, you could also use the raise hand function. If you've chosen to use the Q&A, I will read your question after we call our attendees. Zach, you're next.
Hi, thank you for this presentation, and like echoing everybody else's comments, this is a ongoing project and this is something that needs to be done. Few questions. First of all, what was the FDNY response to this? What was Community Board 14's response to this? And why is there no mention of the big hindrance at the Coney Island end is the police parking for the precinct and the private vehicles of the police officers as well as the police vehicles? Why aren't we looking at removing that parking? They have plenty of places to park in their little parade ground facility.
All good questions. David, I'll try and take some of them. I might leave one for you. I'm going to go backwards. The police are an ongoing challenge for the DOT. And I don't think we have a accepted solution that works. So that's why there's been no mention. We would appreciate your assistance in working with them on finding new places for them to be. But in the meantime, we thought this one was a, let's let that sleeping dragon sleep, or whatever the phrase is. The question about FDNY is we spoke to FDNY. They have agreed to let us implement this, or, let isn't the right word, but they have agreed to go forward with the proposal, and then we were going to continue to meet with them and study their response times and then continue to work with them is basically what they agreed to. And David, CB14, can you speak to CB14?
CB14, yeah, some of the same concerns, but it's been a while since we last spoke to them, but yeah, like they.
Let me help you out because I've been in touch with their district manager. CB14 is generally in favor of it for what is on their side, which is the Parkside area.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. That is right.
So just to follow up real quick. Yep, police department. That's a thing. We are. You guys are not requiring a vote from the board for this. Is that correct? As you guys are moving ahead with this project, and this is a informational presentation.
Emily, do you want to answer that? I'll speak for Emily. Yeah, that is David and I's intention. Was we were going to move forward. This was informational, and if there's anything that we missed that you could tell us about, we were going to try to incorporate it.
Okay, that's so the board will be sending you a letter. We will, all the attendees' comments will be included. I just want everyone to know this. So there won't be a vote at the end of the meeting, but there will be a letter that will be sent on behalf of the board stating our opinions and where we stand on this. And Jeremy, you can move forward and call on the attendees. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach. So I have a couple of attendees' hands up. I have Sylvia Aquafreda first. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, my only concern is the Fort Hamilton Parkway. When that is backed up and a fire truck needs to get through, the cars going off that overpass have nowhere to go because we're down to one lane on that Fort Hamilton Parkway. And the parking is now given shorter space because of the bike lane that's now on Fort Hamilton Parkway. How is that going to be handled?
So what we're aiming to do with this project is to allow vehicles to travel through this circle at a better rate. And so hopefully they can move forward and as they exit above, the emergency vehicle can maneuver around them.
There is no way to maneuver on Fort Hamilton Parkway from that overpass. The cars that are on that overpass can't go right or can't go left because their cars parked on both sides. And now with the bicycle ramp or the bicycle lanes with the protected lanes, and now we have bicycle stations for cars to move over to the side. It's simply impossible.
I don't think that. So you're asking about what happens when Fort Hamilton overpass backs up.
Yeah. And the emergency vehicle has to go through.
Well, I mean, frankly, the answer is that's not this project. So we were looking in the circle. We're trying to make the circle process better for the emergency vehicle to process through the circle. If Fort Hamilton Parkway is backed up, that's an entirely different conversation. That's
okay.
A lot larger.
My only thing is DOT puts it on paper and it looks really great on paper. But when the reality of this project happens, there's a lot of problems with it. You have to experience it in order to fix it.
And I think that was a point that they were making, that this is part of a longer term process of seeing what works and what does not work and correcting what needs to be fixed.
But Jeremy, my thing is they did the same thing to Fort Hamilton Parkway. That's not working. And I haven't seen anybody try to fix it.
We will take note of that in our response to DOT. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jeremy.
I have Gerald Mulvaney next. Gerald, you could unmute yourself.
Hi, Jeremy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My concern here is it seems like you've understated the number of vehicles that build up in the circle. The proposed diagram has a limited number of automobiles, I think. And if I understand correctly, you're not changing the light sequencing at all in the circle.
Hi, Gerald. You're right that we're not proposing to change the signals at this moment. We're trying to see the effects of these changes before we look into that. And regarding your concern about the amount of cars on this diagram, this is just so that the diagram is understandable. If I were to put too many cars on it, it would look too hectic for the diagram to be understandable.
That would be more realistic.
Yeah, and I was trying to picture the sources of why the circle congested. Like this is the start of the congestion, and as it continues, more and more cars join this pattern.
Well, I guess
Well, Gerald, I just want to confirm one thing. You're absolutely right. The challenge of showing movement, which is what's happening in a circle, it's all about movement, and we're showing you static pictures. It gets really hard to diagram for you, and so this is our best attempt at it.
No,
But we acknowledge that this is not reflective.
right, I understand. That's why I experience this all the time. And the backup vehicles trying to get to Ocean Parkway or Fort Hamilton Parkway, or the buildup at Parkside Avenue, where the cars are lined up to go to Parkside, that's going to extend into Coney Island and further back. So I believe it's going to make it worse, because even between Parkside Avenue and Prospect Park Southwest, I see a red build out that squishes the lanes to two. Is that accurate? Between almost across from the entrance of Prospect Park, you see where there's a stripe. Yeah, right there. So you're narrowing that little pocket there, and that's where there's a significant buildup that blocks vehicles going towards Prospect Park Southwest. So what Beverly was saying, which I agree with, is that you should cut away some of that green space back there that leads into the park, and create a lane that feeds more easily into Southwest. And the other thing was Coney Island Avenue. I saw a blue line that says the most traffic comes from Coney Island Avenue, wraps around, and goes, I guess, towards the highway. I don't know if you've looked at Prospect Park Southwest at rush hour, and the feed of traffic, the backup of traffic on Southwest going east in towards the circle is another big backup problem. So I know I'm covering a lot of things here, but that bump out across from Prospect Park entrance seems to make matters worse.
I can address that concern, Gerard. So it seems like we're squeezing it only to 2 lanes, but if you can see here, right, like it currently they're being squeezed into the innermost lane, which is probably 1 lane, and they're getting blocked by other cars. So we're providing 2 clear lanes where they can continue. And I see a concern about like cars actually getting jammed up here too.
That's what it blocks. Yeah, that blocks the entrance to get to Southwest.
And the major source of that is the other side of the circle where they're exiting. It currently looks like this. And like you pointed out, Jared, there's more cars than this in reality, and so this actually backs up all the way here. So if we can clean this up, hopefully this area clears up as well, and so there's less cars queuing here. Everything kind of wraps on itself because it's a roundabout.
I go back to light sequencing, and somehow the backup of traffic, maybe that needs to be examined more closely. If there's more of a fluid light sequencing, maybe the backup wouldn't be as great.
Yeah, that's something we're going to continue to look at as we observe the impacts of this proposal.
One more quickie question. Has the FDNY actually seen this proposal?
Yes, they have.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Jerry. Before and I can confirm, as the first question I always ask them about this is, have you spoken to the FDNY yet? And I've asked the FDNY if they've spoken to them. So I've checked. Before I go into the Q&A, and I guess somebody is dismissing the Q&A. I'm not sure who.
I wasn't trying to dismiss them, but I answered them in the type.
Oh, okay. So then I appreciate that you did that. So do you have a time frame for implementation?
The DOT's all backed up right now, but David and I were hoping it was going to go in August, but that's not happening. It's maybe September if we get lucky. If not, October.
So we have to send our comments to you very soon.
Sooner the better.
Thank you. Zach, I don't see any additional hands up.
Okay. I mean, I think we all appreciate this conundrum, this problem that is the traffic circle and the immense amount of traffic that goes through the circle every day, as well as educating drivers how to use this circle in what is a intersection town. So this is, you know, and everybody, these are great comments, and we're going to compile them. And board members, if you would do as we did last time and send an email to Jeremy, we'll compile all these comments. But if and we'll send our response, and we'll hopefully move forward in a positive way.
Members of the public are welcome to send us emails as well.
Please, and your members of the public, your emails will be forwarded along to the DOT. So, and if nobody else has anything to say, then that would be the end of this meeting. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.